Hey everyone. All right, so here's another video that I wanted to make here because this is a common thing that I'm seeing, especially with people in self-perfected or just in general, people on the self-development journey. So just stick with me in the video because I'm going to give you the most important, it sounds so freaking lame, but like productivity tip that I've learned recently, but it actually is. Like, this is something that has now really helped me to relieve stress levels, managing businesses, managing large amounts of money, different deals, things like that. It can be stressful. Plus managing a homestead, managing a marriage, there's a lot in life that as you take on more responsibility, there's really two main things that I'm going to share with you throughout this video that are really, they've been game changers for me. I know they're going to be a game changer for you.
First step in solving any problem is recognizing there is one.
While America's infrastructure.
We fought it for moral reasons. We stood up for what was right.
This nation will rise up.
So, let's dive in. First, let's start with this, right? Before I give you the actual mindset shift that you can take with you so you can make sure that you don't hit burnout, you can make sure that you're productive every day and you're seeing real progress every day. Like, I'll explain that in a moment, but I want to just share this with you first. It's a really cool realization I've had recently, and I'd suggest anything that's valuable in this video, write it down, right? Share it with other people. This is the first one, is the more that I do, the more that I realize I can do. So it's like the more responsibility I take on, the more I realize, wow, I can do so much more than I ever thought I could. Like, I remember being a child and just wanting to do the bare minimum. Like, I just wanted to go have fun with my friends, and it was like, oh, like I have to do homework, or I have to go do this, or like my parents wanted me to do something. Like, I hated doing it and I wanted to do the bare minimum. So I've had to literally reconstruct myself, like piece by piece, memory by memory, belief by belief, and literally go back through all of my past. I do that with two tools. One is Techno-Tutor, allows you to reprogram yourself at that fundamental level. The other is self-forgiveness writing, which allows you to re-script yourself and how you see yourself. Pretty cool stuff. So this is the first point, is the more that I do, the more that I take on, the more that I just say, yes, I can do this. And it doesn't mean just say yes to everything. Let me be very clear, because a lot of being successful means you're able to say no to things that are actually a distraction. It's another key point. But for the things that I know and I can check and I can prove to myself, okay, this would be best for me to do, such as for us upgrading our office space, right? To the point where we're paying a lot of money to have a certain office so we can host clubhouses, right? Or for me, taking responsibility to make time in my schedule to go and work with the families that we're working with that are homeschooling, and me going and helping them create lesson plans and stuff like that. I'm like, that is responsibility. But I've figured out that the more that I take on, as long as it's in alignment with my principles that I live by, the more I learn that I can do. And it's like the coolest thing, because your mind will give you an excuse or a idea of, oh, I can only handle so much, XYZ. But as you just do this over time, you become amazed at what you can do. So leave a comment first if you've noticed that within yourself, especially the people I know in the self-perfected community. I know a lot of you have taken on a lot more, including getting married, having kids, moving, buying a car. Like, it could be more simple stuff like that, but like, seriously, there's a lot of responsibility with that. And I'm very proud of a lot of people in the group that are really taking that on. So that's part of it, right? So leave a comment if you've noticed that within yourself. The more that you take on, the more that you can actually do. And that's pretty exciting, because where does that lead us to over the next 3 years or 30 years? You know, that's the bigger picture here. Now, here's the other point that I really want to talk about, because this is like a thing I've been explaining to people one-on-one, but I figure I'll just make a video of this so you can see the framework. And then for those who want to connect more one-on-one about this, just reach out to me. Again, like, I've realized that the more I do, the more I can take on. I've figured out a lot of things along the way. So for those of you who are really genuinely serious about improving your life, reach out, right? And if you don't want to improve your life, well, obviously you probably wouldn't even be watching this video. Or if you are, well, let's hear your best trolling comment. You know, leave a troll comment below. So here's the point, right? Is there's like a range of activity that we can do. So just look at this for yourself for a second. Have you ever run into the situation where you feel like you bit off more than you could chew. Like you have done just too much and you feel overwhelmed and you want to quit, or you do quit. Or you give yourself such a huge workload, or you feel kind of like you're drowning in work, or you're drowning in things to do. Another example is someone that I've been chatting with. They got TechnoTutor recently. And when you realize with TechnoTutor, kind of a couple weeks in or a month in or so, you realize, oh my goodness, this thing is able to really help me change how I see myself and really reflect on myself. Wow, there's a lot here. It's like an onion, and you pull off the first few layers and then you realize, whoa, there's way more to me than I initially thought there was, and it's kind of overwhelming. And then we end up creating these endless lists and endless things that we feel like we need to work through. And you almost feel like you're never getting ahead. You feel like you're never winning. That's a horrible place to be in. Now, here's a little caveat is it's good to have those moments of overwhelm. Honestly, over the past 2.5 years, a lot of you that have seen me grow, I consistently have times where I'm like, whoa, I feel like I'm in the deep end. This is a lot. But because I have my relationship with Jessica, I use the tools myself every single day. I make no excuse. Even if I don't feel like it, I still use the tools, TechnoTutor and the writing. And I come on every call I can. So self-perfected calls, the other calls that I have with people around me. And so I have that support system, but I still will hit times where I'm like, I am in the deep end. This is intense, but I got to just keep moving forward. It's good to have those moments of overwhelm because you realize, okay, I'm still here. I'm going to figure it out. And then you build something which is so amazing. It's called self-trust. You learn how to trust yourself fundamentally. So here's how you can really look at this though, with maybe a bit more of an advanced perspective. So you can really advance yourself and what you can really take on. And this is the main thing that I wanted to share is you want to look at what is the best range of activity. And this is going to be a process, right? Where you're going to have to do this a few times to figure out what you can actually handle. But here's how I would look at it is what is the minimum you can do daily where it's genuinely you're winning and making progress? And then what is the maximum that you should do in a day? Think about it like this, right? With food, something as simple as food, right? If you go a whole day without eating, that is not good for you. I don't care if you're doing fasting or whatever. Okay, if you're doing a specific fast, sure, whatever. This is for just basic humans, right? You shouldn't go a whole day without eating, and you probably shouldn't eat 5 meals in a day, right? So there's a range. So you should have at least 2 meals in a day. And then you should have a max 4 meals in a day. And you can look at this right with common sense, but I'm just sharing a practical physical example, right? Or brushing your teeth, right? You should brush your teeth minimum 2 times a day, probably no more than 3 times a day, right? Because you just get wasting time at that point. So, or let's say you have a garden, right? You should water the plants once, maybe twice a day, but you shouldn't water them more than that, right? There's a physical process that we're dealing with. So in the exact same way, repeat that, in the exact same way, approach your life and your work that you do in your own process within yourself and doing your writing, your TechnoTutor, your self-development, reading books, things like that. So just look at this. What is now the minimum you need to do every single day to work on yourself? For me, within TechnoTutor, I give myself minimum 30 minutes. I'll do a basic list and I'll do a custom list. For those of you who don't know what that is and you're curious, just reach out. So I'll do that. And then minimum for writing, I will write at least 3 lines of self-forgiveness as well as a commitment statement. Boom. That's minimum. And I do that every day. And then when I do that, I actually acknowledge to myself, okay, I have now made progress. Okay? Now the next part is in terms of activity, business activity, I have at least 3 items that I do every single day. And it's the win the day type mentality, but it's kind of 3 items on my action list of stuff that I need to do. And I do that for sure, as well as anything else that's a 4 priority. Again, that might be more advanced for you than I don't really care. That's how I approach my day. So that's my minimum. But then I also set somewhat of a maximum. And I'm kind of an extreme person. So, I will kind of push my maxes. And again, this is a process that you keep iterating. Don't set it in stone. Just start to look at your world like this, right? A minimum range, and then there's a maximum range. So for example, now the maximum will be I won't do more than, let's say, an hour and a half or 2 of TechnoTutor. Now, granted, there's certain times where I'm going through certain like upgrade and I'm like really realizing the next level, and I will do more than that. But at the end of the day, for most people, they were like, what, how could you even do that for 2 hours? But I know there's some of you that do 2, 3, 4 hours, and you've had experiences like that. But here's the thing. That is risky, because then the next day you're not going to want to do it, or the next day you're going to have resistance, or so much is going to shift in your life. Like, you want to be able to actually process the change instead of just thinking, oh, just the more the better. Or even with writing, like if you do a really, really, really long self-forgiveness writing thing and you get a ton of clarity, that's cool. But like, figure out what your max is so you don't go overkill. So you can actually let the change take effect in your life, and you can be observant to it. So you're not just zapped out, like you're on empty, right? Like, you ever use your phone and you get to like low power mode? You don't want to get that low. Rather, let's figure out what is a healthy, sustainable rate so you can do this over the long run. And rather, so don't always think that doing more or the harder work is always the better work. A lot of the times it is. Right? A lot of the times it is freaking hard to be successful and keep expanding. But other times it's actually now looking at, how am I overcomplicating it? How can I make it a little bit easier? So at the end of the day, let's just give one more example, right? Like reading books, right? I like to read a lot of books. You can see my bookshelves. I love to read. It's great. But I also set myself a max amount of time to read, give or take. I'm kind of flexible with it. But the spirit of it is in there. Is at a minimum, I will read at least like a page a day. Or I'll read some of the blogs, that we talk about in Self-Perfected. I'll read those. But then the max is like, I'm not, unless it's like a specific day where I'm doing a specific day of like consuming a vast amount of information, normally I'll read maybe a chapter or two before bed. And that's just what I do, right? So that's my range, because now I know the next day I can handle that again, and the next day I can handle that again. And here's what really happens is, instead of doing these big swings, right, swinging back and forth between, oh, I did all this stuff, I did all this activity, and then you crash and you stop doing it because you can't sustain it. Rather, it's like you just do a good chunk of work, and then tomorrow you do a good chunk of work, and then the next day a good chunk of work, and you do that over and 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 over again and again and again and again. Because it's sustainable, that's how you create a lot of results. And I know a lot of you have seen it, because you've seen me go from making $3K a month to now crushing it in business. Like, because I can be sustainable, because I know that I can do this. And every step of the way I learn and I iterate, and I keep doing it week after week after week. And I'll take maybe one day a week off where I like fully unplug, because your body needs to actually rest. But then when I rest, I actually freaking rest. Like, I'll play games, I'll maybe just like watch some random stuff on YouTube, I'll hang out with Jessica, we'll take our dogs on a walk, I might do some homestead projects here and there, but it's like that process of resting too. Like, your body's not just gonna work just to work, right? You're gonna go to a point and then you need to recharge. And what's really cool is that when you hit a point, let's say it's a plateau, all that means is that there's more education that's required. So sometimes on my day off, literally I'll read for like 4 hours, because that's fun to me. Or I'll like binge listen to YouTube videos, because it's fun to me. But it's not like random stuff. I'm not listening to like cat videos or like fail memes or whatever you call them. It's like I'm learning about like not just business, but like the economy, politics, the global situation that's happening right now. I'm learning about communication skills. I'm learning about biology, computers, like seemingly random stuff, but I love that because it allows me to see the world in a more integrated view. And so that's what I do for fun on my days off. But again, at the end of the day, when I'm looking at my days and my weeks, I'm looking at what is the minimum that's genuinely acceptable and what is the max. And then I usually fill somewhere right in between. And then I can really trust myself over the long run. So I want to make that video because this is some real practical stuff from a person who's on the front lines building a business. And it's been really cool to see. I mean, in the past 2 years, I've made over $1 million with this, not quite profit, but that's what's next. So now I'm looking at, how do I do like 3x this amount, right? And how do I keep doubling my business quarterly? So it forces me to keep expanding, but because I trust myself in how I do this, I keep doing it sustainably. And then just real success, it just takes freaking time. So you're seeing it, but I'm documenting this journey, and partially it's to share with people, of course, and partially it's for me because I'm gonna probably forget these details, and you're gonna see me one day with lots and lots of money and lots of influence, but I'm not gonna be the only one. it's us and then the 1,000 other people in Self-Perfected that are really rising up, that are in TechnoTutor, that are doing the IP. It's like, we will be the leaders of the world, period. And you're gonna see it. And right now you might hate on that, you might resist that, you might wanna join us. For those of you who wanna join us, reach out. If you wanna hate, cool, leave me your best comments. But when you're busy complaining about the state of the world, we're actually doing something about it. So I suggest join us and do it in a sustainable way where you can do that work block every single day, the minimum and the maximum, and then keep taking responsibility, because the world's not in a good spot, but we have the right things to actually correct that over the next 5, 10, 15 years. So let's do it. Join us. See ya. What up, YouTube? All right, give me your next 90 seconds, and this is about to blow your freaking mind. So let's look at your life. Where do you want to be? Are you fully happy with where you're at? Or is there a next level that you know you can get to and also stay at? Right? Because it's one thing to get to the next level, it's another thing to stay there. Now, how do you get there? Right? So let's look at these people that, society tends to idolize. You got Elon Musk, right? Jeff Bezos, Bill Gates, give or take, Oprah, Drake, right? These people that we would say are at the top in terms of their effectiveness. Those people, right? They're also people, right? They got 2 eyes, 2 ears, a mouth, right? A body, a brain. What's the difference? Right? What's the difference between them and you? If they're at the top, they have billions of dollars, and you're over wherever you're at with however much money's in your bank account. What's the difference? Right? Is it just they're more intelligent or they got lucky? No. It's very simple. It's called programming. They are programmed for success, and they're programmed to be able to hold on to that success when you're at whatever level of programming you're at. Now, for those of you who are willing to be honest about this and then want to change that for real, guess what? We have a private Discord group that you can join for yourself. Now, there is a requirement. You hop in and you got to get on a call so we can see if you're real or not. But aside from that, there's an elite group of people that are getting to the top and staying at the top, so we can use that influence to actually create a better world once and for all. So if you want to join, and I look forward to seeing you on the inside. Peace.